The rain drummed steadily on the grocery store windows as Sophie Carter fumbled through her designer purse at the checkout counter. Her credit card had declined. Again. Behind her, a growing line of customers sighed and shuffled, impatience building like the storm outside. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. One more card. Maybe it would work. But before she could try, a calm voice interrupted her panic. "Let me get this," said a man with kind eyes, his young daughter peeking shyly from behind his coat. "Oh no, I couldn't possibly," Sophie began, flustered. But he had already swiped his card and smiled gently. "It happens to all of us. Just pay it forward someday." Before she could thank him, he was gone, vanishing into the rain with his daughter. "That's just Luke," the cashier said, bagging the groceries, always helping someone. Meanwhile, in a small apartment across town, Luke Bennett moved quietly through a modest kitchen. He poured coffee into a thermos, careful not to wake his 7-year-old daughter Emily, whose crayon drawings decorated the fridge. Their life wasn't fancy, but it was filled with love. Luke, once an award-winning architect, now managed the same grocery store. Life had changed after his wife passed. He'd given up skyscrapers for stable shifts, but his daughter never noticed the difference. To her, he was everything. That rainy morning, their worlds, Sophie's and Luke's, had collided for a reason. Neither of them knew it yet. The morning after their brief encounter, Luke Bennett was already restocking produce at Parkview Market when an older customer asked for help reaching the top shelf. He smiled, grabbed the item gently, and offered a kind word. No one would guess he once designed award-winning buildings. Meanwhile, across the city, Sophie Carter walked through the sleek glass corridors of Carter Innovations, the sustainable design tech firm she founded at just 30. At 36, she had everything: awards, money, a sky-high office, and yet something felt hollow. Today's board meeting focused on the Meadow Ridge Project, an affordable housing initiative close to Sophie's heart. But the team's sterile, boxy designs felt cold, disconnected from real people. Walter, an old-school board member, suggested stripping the community features to improve profits. Sophie pushed back, her frustration showing. She couldn't explain it, but her passion for this project had only grown since the grocery store incident. That simple moment, being helped by someone who didn't judge her, kept replaying in her mind. Who was he? Why had it stayed with her? On impulse, Sophie canceled her afternoon meetings and returned to the store. She wandered the aisles, scanning until she found him. Luke, in a green apron, helping another customer. She watched from afar as he coached a younger employee with patience and grace. There was something deeply thoughtful about him. The manager spoke casually nearby. "Luke? Oh yeah. Overqualified. Used to be with one of those big architecture firms, Morgan and Blake, I think." Life changed. Sophie froze. Morgan and Blake, he wasn't just kind, he was brilliant. That weekend, Sophie traded her heels for sneakers and showed up at the Meadow Ridge Community Garden site, jeans on, hair tied back. Normally, she sent assistants to these volunteer events. Today, she wanted to see the project, her project, through someone else's eyes. She was weeding a plot when she heard a familiar voice. "Careful, kiddo, press the soil gently," like tucking in a blanket. Sophie looked up. Luke was crouched beside a little girl, showing her how to plant a tomato seedling. His daughter Lila, no older than 7, beamed with concentration. Sophie approached quietly. "Hello again," she said. Luke looked up, puzzled, then surprised. "Grocery store lady?" he smiled. "Sophie," she corrected. "I never got to thank you." "No need," he replied, brushing his hands on his jeans. "Glad it helped." As they talked, Sophie learned about Luke's past. Once an architect designing award-winning developments, he left it all when his wife passed, choosing stability for Lila over career ambition. The job at Parkview was flexible, close to her school. He never complained. He just adjusted. Watching him guide volunteers with quiet authority, Sophie saw something her firm had been missing: heart. Later, they sat near the flower beds. Sophie, still concealing her true role, asked Luke what he'd change about the Meadow Ridge project. Without ego, he offered sharp insights, more than her entire design team had managed in months. "I used to design buildings," he said, "but now I build time, for her." She smiled softly, feeling something shift inside her. Over the following days, Sophie kept returning, sometimes with blueprints, sometimes just with tea. Luke was always there, always open, always thoughtful. Lila would often join, chattering about flowers, school, and which vegetables were ugly but yummy. Sophie still hadn't told Luke who she really was. That changed when her assistant called with urgency. "The board's turning against Meadow Ridge. They want to cut the community spaces." Sophie had one option: bring in the one person who actually understood what the community needed. The next day she invited Luke to a meeting. It was the first time he saw her in a tailored blazer, stepping into a sleek glass boardroom. The truth hit him. "You're the CEO," he said flatly. "Yes," Sophie replied. "And I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, but I wasn't pretending. I just needed someone to see me outside of that title." Luke's eyes hardened. "You wanted my insights but not my credit?" "No," she said. "I want your voice in the room. Officially, publicly. Please help me save this." Luke showed up the next morning. He spoke simply, authentically, and when a board member questioned why a grocery manager was giving input on a multi-million-dollar development, he answered, "I live what you're trying to design. I've seen what happens when you build for people, not just profits. Families need more than walls. They need dignity, connection, routine." The room shifted, they listened, and they voted. Meadow Ridge would proceed, with Luke's design at the center. Weeks later, the future site of Meadow Ridge was buzzing with quiet energy. Volunteers pulled weeds and planted seedlings where a garden would grow. Lila, giggling and mud-streaked, placed tiny flowers beside the pathway. Sophie stood beside Luke, both in jeans and sneakers, sipping mint tea from his familiar thermos. Their connection had deepened, soft smiles, easy silence, glances that said everything. Luke now worked part-time as community design consultant at Havencore. He hadn't left the grocery completely, it still grounded him, but now his ideas shaped more than produce aisles. One afternoon, Sophie watched him kneel beside Lila, helping her adjust the stones around a small fountain they designed together. "You've changed everything," Sophie said quietly. Luke looked up. "We did this together." Their hands brushed. He didn't pull away. "You saw me," he added, "not just the guy in the apron." "And you saw me," she said softly, "not just the CEO." As Lila ran over to show them a crooked little sign she'd painted, "Welcome to our garden," Luke reached for Sophie's hand. "Some foundations," he said, "take longer to pour. But they're stronger that way," she replied. They smiled. No dramatic confessions, just the calm, steady warmth of two people who had built something real, from trust, from tea, from seeing each other clearly. And it all started with a kind stranger at a grocery store.